Welcome home, all. You know what time it is. It's Fun Friday, cheap date night. The cheapest date in town. You get what you pay for. You would get what you pay for. You're getting something. So it is Fun Friday. It is also tonight, a special version. We're not going to do Tag That Track tonight, but I got to make sure I go back, and I did not put out the Tag That Track from last week because it was a special week, and what we did was I took 3 or 4 of our super fans, and I took 2 songs from each of our super fans, and we put those on air to tag that track and see if you guys could get them. So this is what I've got. I had Bob Marley, One Love, The Midnighters, The Town I Live In, Bobby Vinton, Sealed with a Kiss. So that was for Barbara, and I know you're watching, lady. So she said Bobby Vinton, and I knew exactly what she's talking about because that's my generation too, my generation. And I chose Sealed with a Kiss. He's got a lot of good tunes and a lot of good songs, but I really dig on that one. That's the one I like listening to, and a good singing song too. So Fleetwood Mac, Never Going Back Again, Michael Wismer, Joe Bonamassa, So Many Roads, great. I mean, you know I'm a sucker for the blues and that going back to some, into the roots of what good rock is. And then I think it was Guillermo Chavarria. He gave me Breaking Stuff by Limp Bizkit, and he gave me Thank You Next by Ariana Grande. You're all over the place, young bud, but I like your style. All right, so those are my super fans. The Wismers, Guillermo, Homeboy Louie in the local backyard area, and my girl Barbara. Those were the songs from last week's Tag That Track. None below for you guys. Got to show some appreciation. So I told you, I have a big tent that old SuperMex occupies, and I love listening to all types of music. So I was aware and know all of those songs. So you didn't stymie me or stump me. So I got them. Okay, so that's Tag That Track. So tonight, special edition, Swainbo couldn't be with us, so we'll probably wrap up our education series next week, and you guys know how that works. So Swainbo and I have done about 4 or 5 nights on really concrete, hard-hitting, very important education issue and policy on what we think the ideal high school and the ideal education system should mean for a kid graduating into the citizenry and the workforce into being an adult. So we've been laying that out, and then what we're going to do is we're going to categorize those and put those in a playlist. And if you're so inclined, if you really want to know about what's going on or what you should be getting in education right now, you'll probably want to go back and run that as a series of 4, 5, 6 nights with Swainbo, where we actually educate you on what you should be seeing if you're a parent or a grandparent, or if you're a teacher, or if you're in education at all. We break down some of the things that should be taking place but maybe are not, and that could be anywhere in America. But that's what we've been doing. I've been really important. That's really important for what we do going forward. And then Swainbo and I will move on. But he's a longtime educator. I'm a former educator. And aside from us having fun once in a while, we are extremely concerned about the state of education in America because it quite literally is, without the cliched, it is the future, right? Younger generation, if they're not educated properly, then ladies and gentlemen, you get what you pay for. In this case, if you're not putting out the money for it, you're not going to get much back. We can solve those problems, but people actually have to be invested, be involved, and be engaged in right now. And that's why we've been doing that. So a little deviation tonight. We're going to get back and we're going to do a little more pop culture. So tonight, if you guys saw the title, it was New Batman. It was Thrones ending, Game of Thrones ending, and a wrap-up to Avengers Endgame, because I think we're pretty much there now. It's been about 3 weeks, and they're well over $2.5 billion worldwide, and that is a lot of coin, a lot of money. So we're going to get to all those in the next hour or so, and then we'll be out. But so now I'm joined by a younger set. SuperMex is going to open this mess up to a couple young dudes in here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the 2 young dudes, because you can't know everything if you're not willing to open up and listen to somebody else that may know something you don't. That's quite literally what it is, right? You got a half full glass, or is it entirely full? If it's entirely full, you can never learn another thing. So let's get to some introductions here. So on my left-hand side, give me an introduction. What you got?
My name is Steven Sanchez.
Steven Sanchez.
I'm a local concert photographer, videographer, and journalist right here in the Central Valley, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks
Give me age. Age.
Age 29. 29.
You're getting to be an old man.
I'm not looking forward to that. Not looking forward to that.
You're creeping up on the 30. Creeping up on 30.
My back hurts after taking a nap, so I'm starting to get that age.
Damn, I was like, what does mine hurt? It was like even worse, huh? All right, so Steven is also, is from here, Buchanan High, if I remember correctly.
Yep, class of 07.
And knee deep in all that's going on right now and knowledgeable on comics, entertainment, music,
film, comic book conventions, local sporting events, and all that stuff.
And that's kind of why I gave Steven a buzz, because it's kind of in his wheelhouse, some of the stuff we're talking about tonight. I mean, pop culture doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm an expert on it. You just got to be in it.
Oh, no, for sure.
You know what I mean? Just got to be in it.
Yeah.
All right, so to my right-hand side, who's this?
Who this be?
Who this?
I'm not sure.
That's WHODIS. Who this? Introductions?
Richard Martinez the third. The third's important. The son, not SuperMex Jr. They call me the Mex Mamba. But
Give me doing that, KP.
What's that one? That one? Yeah.
Watch the eyebrow, watch.
I could do,
See the eyebrow? Look at the eyebrow.
Oh, no, I could do it right here. That's my camera right there. I could try. There you go. There you go. There you go. It's just the right one. I could only do the right one.
So we got two young guys, and both of these guys are, I don't want to say knee deep, but knowledgeable on comics, current culture, etc. And so it's like we got a little bit of a window. I mean, Richard's 23, Steven's 29. I'm somewhere up there, creeping on the 50. And so we've got a good range. But, we're all guys and we all read comics. You guys will freak out. Like, did I read comics? I absolutely read comics. Absolutely read comics. I like to consider myself knowledgeable. And I do watch movies. I think so. We've all seen Avengers Endgame?
Yes.
Okay, so we've all seen Avengers Endgame. We all know a little bit about Batman comics. You watching Game of Thrones at all?
A little bit.
I don't follow as much as my family does, but I'm pretty much caught up to speed on it. It's really hard not to follow when everyone's talking about it.
I mean, because we're in 5, so, Sundays they're closed.
Yeah, I'm pretty, like I said, I'm pretty up to date with it. When you got a family that watches a lot, talks a lot about it and everything, I pretty much know what's going on, especially...
You know what it's like, and let's do that. Let's dive in there. I mean, it's kind of difficult at this point. I mean, I'm not saying you don't have to have HBO. I mean, to actually get this stuff material. This isn't the old days where, like, you have to have that channel to get something. You never see it until it comes out on DVD 5 years later.
No, for sure.
Everything's available to you, at some point or another. So, we'll delve into that too. But let's begin. Now, watch this. We're going to begin with the new Batman. And so I was just reminded, and accurately, it's not confirmed yet. We don't have the Batman yet. We don't have a new Batman, but we're talking about Robert Pattinson from Twilight fame and other things. I mean, the guy's actually done other movies.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he's actually done some movies that were pretty decent. He's a British guy, and I will say this: most Brits that are in acting, they're usually quality thespians, and a lot of them are classically trained in the traditional model that maybe some of our actors are not. Maybe you get a little bit of fame and you jump into acting, and maybe they like you. Next thing you know, you're a star. But most of the Brits, to get out of their wheelhouse, you actually have to have the skill. So where are we at with Robert Pattinson, gents? What do you think?
Well, to actually add to that, what you're saying, I kind of talk about that with my dad because I assume so that your son got into comic books because you're a comic book reader. Well, my dad...
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. You see, my dad got me into comic books and movies when I was young, too, and we talk about that stuff, and we actually had a good conversation where he mentioned that, where you said that, British actors are classically trained to take on these kind of roles, and as you've seen the repertoires of lately, a lot of Brits have been taking the mantle of these popular superhero roles. Henry Cavill, Brit, playing Superman. Christian Bale, a Brit, playing Batman. Tom Holland, actually both the recent Supermans in the Amazing Spider-Man series, and this one, Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland. Which, don't get me wrong, that qualifies them.
Garfield's British, huh?
Garfield's he is. British. Yeah. So, but that's what I'm saying is that
they're sniping all of our stuff, America.
Well, that's what I was trying to lead to.
You want to talk about a British invasion?
Yeah,
which one?
That's exactly what he said.
Exactly.
Which one?
They're invading us again. They're invading us again. The Brits are coming.
Well,
they got here too late. The Russians already got here.
So they got to take our superheroes now. Not trying to be biased, but the criteria is that, they are like you. If you want to say the word thespian, they do have classically trained acting skills in order to take up these roles, but at the same time, these are American drawn and written superheroes. So to tell me that there isn't a talent pool of American talent that could take up the mantle of an American iconic superhero such as Batman. That's the best you could do. I mean, what's it going to be? I'm Batman, and I sparkle too. I mean, it's just that, again, I have a friend that made a comment saying that it's not Rob Pattinson that he had a problem with, it's the fact of the roles that he's done. So yeah, like you said, he's done all the roles, but he will forever always be known as Edward from Twilight. You know, you can't shake that. You can't take that away. He's always going to be that. So leading him into that Batman, everyone is always going to say, oh, heck, it's going to be Edward from Twilight playing Batman. And that's the reason why Christian Bale worked on so many levels, was for the fact that before he even took up the role, no one knew who Christian Bale was. Hell, no one even knew who Christopher Nolan was. So
I did.
Well,
I was gonna say I'm gonna disagree with a lot.
I did. I knew who Christian Bale was, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Most people knew who Christian Bale was.
Let me move it back this way.
The mainstream didn't.
I'll say this: like I knew Christian Bale was, and maybe I guess I'm not mainstream. I guess I actually do pay attention to some of this stuff, right? But I knew he was a damn good actor.
Yeah.
The guy was legit. He's going to end up being one of the best actors in his
most
generation.
people at this point have seen American Psycho. Everybody, at least everybody.
Yeah,
knew
but
from
in
that.
2004, when he got casted, did anyone really know American Psycho as much as they do now? That's what I'm saying. Batman.
I wasn't around.
Well, it had
wasn't around then.
Well, yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It had to take for Batman to become popular when people saw how good Christian Bale was in the role, and everyone was like, "Okay, who's this guy, Christian Bale? Well, he's a good actor. What other stuff has he done?" So they referred back to American Psycho, and at that time, when that movie came out, it was so controversial that it lacked in viewership and popularity that once Batman became popular and Bale's name became a bigger star, people went back to that movie, and then it became a cult classic afterwards. So before that, I remember reading the articles in like Hollywood Reporter, Variety, saying, well, who's Christian Bale? I mean, yeah, maybe Newsies and Empire of the Sun, but he didn't really have an identifiable role before that said, you know, that attached to his name before he took up the cape and cowl. So when he did, still to this day, for all the great roles that he's done, people will still remember him as Batman. And unfortunately, with Rob Pattinson going into this thing, he's already got the Twilight fame attached to him going into this movie, that you can't ask, okay, well, first of all, you're telling me there's no American actor that, you know, is classically trained to themselves that could take up the role? Or the fact that, you know, how many flipping Batmans have there been up to now, from beginning with Tim Burton's with Michael Keaton all the way up to now? I mean, if you don't mind me naming, Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, Christian Bale, Ben Affleck, and now Rob Pattinson. Oh, and if you want to go further than that, Burt Ward. Okay, so that's seven Batmans
so
now.
Let's do this. Let's do this because that's the Batman. But let's do this. So let's do like a round table so you give thumbs up, thumbs down. So let's go back to the beginning, not counting, you know, Adam West because he's the Batman. That's just
that's who you grew up with.
No, it doesn't grow up. I mean, there was no Batman.
That's
there was
like
no Batman.
the iconic.
Yeah. And by the way, that was like the whole concept of it, because it was still cartoon. You know, it was still cartoon understanding, and not cartoon but comic. I want to say comic.
Yeah,
my mistake. But so let's go back. Let's do Michael Keaton.
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes. I bought into it. Yes.
You too? Chingo?
I don't like it.
I bought into him. I bought into him as Batman.
Because you get it kind of afterward. Okay, I did because he was the first and there was nobody else up until that point. And you're like, I remember when it came out, I'm like, okay, I guess. And then you just deal with it because he's the guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so a yes, a no, and a kind of yes for me. All right, so then next.
Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer. Okay, I'm going to say it. He's an Iceman. I'll go no. I'm going to go no.
Oh, really?
I'm going to go no. And I'm going to tell you why, because I'm going to use some of your logic. Okay. All right. He was Iceman in Top Gun.
Oh, yeah,
that's who
true.
he was.
That's
he was
true.
the Iceman. He was not the damn Batman. It just didn't. I mean, it was like, and don't get me wrong, I like Val Kilmer. I mean, he's got a lot of good roles over a lifetime.
No, for sure.
But I was like, well, where are you going with this? Are you trying to make it, you know, I mean, because going back to that time, Michael Keaton had a resume too, by the way.
Yeah.
Before his casting as the Batman.
Yeah.
And Michael Keaton, I mean, he was, I will say this, he was an actor in the sense that he wasn't stereotyped in one particular genre or subset.
Yeah.
He was good at a lot of things.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
you guys might be too young, but Mr. Mom,
No,
I mean,
Mr. Mom.
that freaked me out when he did Mr. Mom. I was like, that's funny as hell.
Yeah.
So he had comedy chops. He had legitimate dramatic chops. And I'm not saying he's the greatest actor on the planet, but he had a variety of skills in terms of being an actor, which I'm going to get to in a second in terms of like, how are you trained, right?
Yeah.
You know, there was a time when some actors actually had to be trained and actually had to work through the ranks to get to a point.
Training, what's
it
that?
wasn't about, it wasn't about just, okay, man, this guy's got a lot of likes and views. He's got a built-in fan base. He's
Exactly.
a star. Okay, so and we'll get to that in a second. So
for sure.
So I'm gonna be down on and because I do like Val Kilmer.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's always gonna be the ice man.
No, for sure.
You guys only Top Gun, man.
Yeah.
My older set will get that crew. So I'm down on Val Kilmer. You kind of
yeah, I was up for Val Kilmer.
and then you kind of down.
Down.
You a negative Nelly. This guy's gonna be a negative Nelly all night.
I got my reasons.
All right,
We'll
so
get to
let's go now. Okay, so we got Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer,
then George Clooney.
and it was Clooney.
I would.
Damn, you guys are killing me. All right, watch this. Now watch this. I say that. I'm loading you up.
I
I'm
know
loading you up
what
to
you- I
smack
know
you
what you're
both
loading
because I'm gonna be down on George Clooney too.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna flesh that out in a second. Maybe we get to the Avengers Endgame. He knows because I've been chewing him out about this.
No, for sure.
I'm gonna be down on George Clooney as a Batman, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because George Clooney was tailor-made and picture perfect for another superhero role that I thought was monumentally miscast. And all of you out there in the Spider-Verse universe and the SuperMexiverse, watch this. Watch out. In the SuperMexiverse, you guys will never know because it never went that road. This was an alternate reality, an alternate universe where he would have been cast in another role, and it would have been another world. All right. So anyway, so I think all three of us are down on George Clooney.
Yes.
Yes.
But did you like Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze?
It's funny now. In hindsight. In hindsight, it is.
Yeah, it freaked me out. I didn't know the dude was going to be my governor at some point.
Ice,
He
baby.
ended up being my damn
yeah.
governor. So I was kind of cool. Anyway, but no, wasn't that the one with
You're
wasn't
thinking
Jim
Uma Thurman.
Carrey?
Oh, no,
The
that was
Riddler?
Batman Forever.
That's Batman
No,
Forever. That's Kilmer.
Yeah. Yeah, he was with Kilmer.
Okay,
and
my
Tommy
bad.
Lee Jones as
Because
Two-Face.
I mean, Jim Carrey was pretty
Yeah, he
good
was
as
really
Oh, no,
Riddler.
he helped
he
make
was-
that movie.
oh,
yeah, he
man.
was the Riddler. Yeah,
I mean,
he
I'll
did a
say this,
tremendous
like,
job.
and I don't want to get too much into the weeds here because we'll be here all night, but
Yeah.
Jim Carrey as the Riddler, I mean, that was like Heath Ledger as the Batman.
No,
I
he was
mean,
spot on.
Or not Batman, but as the Joker.
Joker,
Because they were, I mean, I don't think you could have found anybody to do the role better.
No.
Especially Carey in the 90s, coming off the success of
he was-
The Mask.
He was-
Dumb and
he was
Dumber,
rolling. That
and
was
Ace
his
Ventura.
wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, he was
That
on
was
top of the world.
Yeah, he was that was his wheelhouse. And when he did the Riddler, I was like, is this ridiculous?
I mean, in
It
the
was that
pantheon
good.
of villains, first starting on with Jack Nicholson's Joker, he comes the close second of the great villains that came afterwards. You had Jack Nicholson as the Joker, who set the bar. Jim Carrey kind of set it even higher when he was the Riddler.
I'll go
Miguel?
add this.
Yeah.
I'll add this. Watch this.
Yeah, but think of that.
I'll add Danny DeVito as the Penguin. Who could not have looked better as the Penguin than, hey, physically?
Yeah, I know.
Physically.
Very true.
Yeah, he was.
Physically
yes.
as the Penguin.
I don't know
Yeah,
if I
he
can get
was.
over the flippers as much, but you know.
Oh, that creeped
Or,
me out.
was
or the
creepy.
black liquid out of his
Oh,
mouth.
man, that was nasty. Yeah, you give me the willies now.
It
Okay.
pissed off McDonald's.
It takes a lot to give SuperMex the willies, but that gave me willies. Okay,
Oh,
so
for
let's
sure.
move it on. All right, so where are we at? Clooney,
Yeah, Clooney got all three of us.
Then
and then we went to
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale.
That's two thumbs up.
I don't know. You can't really.
Yeah, you
really
can't
not.
argue with that. Yes.
I'm going to tell you point blank. I think Christian Bale was. I mean, I don't think there's ever going to be a better Batman. Not on the big screen. I don't think so.
No, for sure.
I mean, because that dude. I like to tell people this. He recast the concept of an actor as a superhero
I
in
was
film.
Just
Yes,
about to
he
say
was.
that.
In film.
Completely revitalized
In
superhero
film.
movie.
Now, notwithstanding going back to like Christopher Reeves as the original Superman, okay, because that was still kind of comic book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that.
Very
So
much.
I'm going to be
Yeah.
eggheaded with you guys out in my SuperMexiverse. That's being a little eggheaded, but that's more comic book and an homage to comic and comics. Christian Bale as the Batman was an actor in a role in a real movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
grounded
That was
in
a movie.
reality. Yeah.
That was a movie.
Yes.
I mean, that was next level stuff. So that's where I'm at, and I'll say it. And Richard kind of knows this. I'm a big Christian Bale fan. I think he may end up being one of the greatest actors of his generation. This
100%,
generation, with him. The
100%.
dude's legit. I mean, he's like Daniel Day-Lewis from that prior
Yeah.
generation.
Yeah.
Just another one.
you could put him up there.
Okay, so we're all up on
Yeah.
Christian Bale, and then so Ben Affleck.
I have my reasons.
You better have some damn good reasons.
Yeah,
Because
my
watch
reasons.
this. I'm going 2 down here.
2 down,
I'm
okay.
going
I'm
2
doing
down,
1
on
down,
on Ben Affleck. And it's not that I don't like Ben Affleck. I kind of like Ben Affleck. All right, but
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm gonna give you a spot. Go ahead.
Reasons?
It better be good. It better be good.
Well, I mean, originally when he was cast, I was like, oh man, Ben Affleck. I was like, well, I don't want to see another Daredevil reboot, and it's gonna be pretty terrible. Yeah, I don't know.
The Daredevil was ugly.
But it's like for those who
Daredevil
are
was ugly.
Yeah, absolutely. For
It
those-
wasn't quite you know who, but
Nah,
who's the worst supervillain or superhero for all time
So we're superhero all time on the big screen.
on the big screen?
Oh,
This one should be easy.
some people say Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern
That's
because
it.
that was horrible.
And
yeah.
that one's it. That has to be the worst superhero movie for a guy that grew up on comics. You don't got one better than that. Who do you got?
the old Captain America movie.
Oh yeah, the Roger Corman one in the '90s. Yeah, Roger
The
Corman.
old Spider,
yeah.
old
Oh,
porn
damn,
movie.
that was kind of ugly.
And
huh?
then actually, no one knows this, but Dolph Lundgren was the Punisher in the
with
late
the fake
'80s.
ears, that too.
Yeah.
No, but that wasn't even that bad. Nope.
Really?
Not even that bad.
Okay.
No, that was campy. That old word campy.
Yeah.
But Ryan Reynolds as the Green Lantern butchered my entire concept of what the Green Lantern was.
That makes
Is
sense.
what it
Yeah.
was supposed to be.
It was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
ugly. I mean, and I'm not even an egghead. You know more about the industry than I do.
Yeah.
But it was just done ugly.
No, it was,
done,
yes.
not done well. You're like, is this a movie or is this some like backroom stuff?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
animated suits and everything.
Drop that. Anyway,
And
okay, so
everything, yeah.
I'm gonna give you. You go ahead. Your Ben Affleck. It better be good.
Also, for the people that are,
You do know you're gonna be with your grandmother in
purists.
this one, right? Now I'm
do
gonna
it.
tell you why. Because my mom likes Ben Affleck, and so
Oh,
I do
okay.
not argue with my mother. I never argue with my mother. So I just kind of went like, I walked out.
Oh, no, for sure,
So
for sure.
grandma was with Ben Affleck.
I know. It's not because I love Ben Affleck. It's because it's Ben Affleck's Batman is The Dark Knight from the Dark Knight comic book series, the Grant Morrison series.
Correct.
And I mean, it's just, yeah, people he
So
used
the
a
role's
gun.
supposed to be different.
And as I'm not going to say that there weren't things that he did within the movies that I was like, okay, well, that's ridiculous. But I will say, too, that that Batman versus Superman scene, that's the best Batman action scene that I have seen on the big film, on the big screen. Where he goes, breaks into the warehouse and takes out all the thugs. That is the most true to Batman that I've ever seen. And the thing too is like, where he's this older guy, he's disgruntled. That's the Dark Knight. And so it's like I was wary of it.
So you're grounded. You're more in the comic, obviously.
Yeah. That was
is
what
fair
they
enough.
said. Zack Snyder says like we're gonna go for a comic book thing. It's like okay, well, we'll see how that turns out. Not too bad. Aside from him holding the gun and all the promos.
So I'll throw you a curve then. Could they not have found somebody better to portray the Dark Knight?
Yes, they could have.
I think that absolutely.
Well,
I think
because
they could have.
I mean, not, if
You're,
you don't want to
you're,
jump in,
you're
yeah.
giving him a benefit because he had to restructure the role
Yeah.
to fit the want of the director who's going down this road.
The
in
other
comic.
thing too that I'll add that a lot of people don't really take into
It sounded
consideration.
like comic nerds up in here.
That's the whole point.
Yeah,
right?
It
that's
is
who
comic.
you got. That's
it
who you
is.
got.
They
yeah.
We're gonna have to
needed-
make a comic nerd night.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
They needed somebody who was bigger than Superman because in the comics, Batman is taller than Superman. So not
yeah,
only
yeah.
did they need somebody who was American and fulfilled all the roles, he needed to be bigger than Henry Cavill, who was like 6'1", Ben Affleck's like 6'2", 6'3",
Yeah.
somewhere right around there. So in terms of
Cavill's a
strictly,
big old beast too.
he is.
That
He
is
is
a big
Oh, no,
old
for sure.
side of beef,
But,
man.
but it's funny that even before Thanos, if you don't mind me jumping in, before Thanos and before Cable and Deadpool, I actually heard that the talks were actually going towards Josh Brolin as an older Batman. If you see his face and you see his grittiness and stuff like that, like
would've been good.
I buy into Josh Brolin. I mean, and I think that's the reason why he got cast in all those Marvel roles was because
damn Josh
he brings
Brolin.
a grittiness.
I tell you what, I think I'll have to. You guys have to. You'll have to agree with me. You'll have to agree with
You'll
me.
have to.
Josh
Think about
Brolin is having like a
I
second,
know.
third, fourth renaissance.
No, he is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he is.
Absolutely.
He's being cast in some seriously iconic roles.
Yeah.
Right now
Yeah.
that are gonna. But I will tell you this, and I'm gonna go ahead of you too because you're younger than me. He's pretty good,
No, he is.
but he ain't no James Brolin. He ain't no
No, no.
James Brolin.
I wouldn't know.
So
No, no, for sure.
any
No,
of you
no,
guys
no, no,
out there in
no,
the world,
exactly.
if you know who James Brolin is, that's his pop. His pop's a
Yeah, for
beast.
sure.
His pop's the man. Josh Brolin's dad is the man.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude, and you see him, Hotel. Anybody here watch Hotel? KP, hey, you're sitting over here in my window. KP's more my generation than these guys, but James Brolin is Josh Brolin's dad.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it. That guy is like old school, whoop-ass Hollywood to
Right.
me.
Yeah.
And he's dignified. He's refined. He's a dude. I mean, like a dude. That's a bad dude to me.
dude's
So
a
anyway,
yeah.
so I do like Josh Brolin. I do.
But does he abide?
Does he what?
Does he abide?
He does not abide. He abides. So if you don't know, he's married to Barbara Streisand. Had nothing to do with that because I'm not a big Barbara Streisand
I saw
fan.
Amityville Horror, and he was good in that too. James Brolin. So
Yeah, I don't even look at it. For me, it's like it's not even the acting with James Brolin. He's a good actor, but he's just. I mean, he's a dude, man.
Yeah.
He's just a
He's a
dude.
man, yeah.
He's a man's man, and then you
sure.
kind of lose that now because men's men aren't around anymore. It's kind of like these candy men walking around, you know.
All right, well, let me.
All right, so where are we at? Finish up with Affleck.
That was it. Those are my points.
So you're
Sweet, simple, to the point.
Okay, so you're
point.
kind of giving him a little bit of grace because
Yes.
it was a restructuring of the role. I
Yes.
will admit that it clearly was meant to be something other because it was supposed to be the Dark Knight arc.
Yep.
Who's the writer for that?
Grant Morrison.
Grant Morrison. Okay. And obviously, you know, for you guys out there that in SuperMex Nation, you know some of the stuff we're talking about. You have different writers and different genres and styles, even within the context of just one not actor, but one superhero.
Yep.
These things change, you
But
know, and
they
they
have to
go
evolve.
different. They go different.
they have to evolve.
If they don't survive, right?
I'm gonna add- I don't know if you
Adaptation,
knew this.
improvisation.
I'm gonna throw the. Do you know who the? There's not just Robert Pattinson in the running. You know who the other person is?
Or are we done with? We're done with our rankings. We're done with our thumbs up and down. So let's go. Who else?
Wasn't it
Who
Armie
else?
Hammer from Lone Ranger? He was in talks.
He was, but there are 2 finalists right now.
Who's?
I'm doing
I
this.
probably could
'cause
think of
I'm
it
doing
on
this.
a blank right now.
I'm the old man on the set. You're supposed to educate me. Help me
I'm
out.
doing this because this is a favorite actor. of his. It's Nicholas Hoult.
No, he's
Oh.
the Beast. He's Beast from X-Men.
Yeah, but he is in talks to do.
He won't
is
be the first
finalist.
one they moved around.
He is the he.
Jack the Giant Slayer, he's done his fair share of sci-fi stuff. Again, everyone's going to see him as Beast going into Batman. That's what I'm saying. And 2 Brits, I mean, again.
No, not necessarily. I know I'm going to get on the Brit thing too right now, but I'm not necessarily though, 'cause I'm going to tell you why. Okay, there was a Johnny Storm that ended up being Captain America.
Yeah, Chris Evans. Chris Evans.
And nobody's
Johnny
going to
Storm.
say Chris Evans didn't make that transition.
Human Torch.
Yeah,
Not
the
just
original
because Fantastic
2004.
Four was so bad.
no, but that's the thing. It was a redeeming factor. It was a redeeming factor that because the Fantastic Four, the first one and the sequel were not as good. But the thing is that even though he did good for the time that he was given and as Johnny Storm, I see him as a better Captain America. So it was a redeeming factor for him with Nicholas Hoult as Beast going into Batman. If he did get the role, you see, the X-Men movies are good.
There's no room for redemption.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
Nicholas Hoult did a great Beast, and for the movies that he was in with First Class, Days of Futures Past, and even though Armageddon is, but you know, for his role, he did a great job. So there is no redeeming factor. Same thing with Affleck. You know, he needed to redeem himself. So I can understand why some people are up on his train because as bad as Daredevil was, people actually kind of bought him into being Batman. So it's kind of like what the role suits you and what followed you before.
I tell you what, I think we're being a little goony.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you why.
Sure.
I'm going to tell you.
To say the least.
Isn't that like,
To say
watch
the
this,
least.
1 to 12 powers.
Activate.
All right, so I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. Because the majority of America right now, definitely not SuperMex Nation, you guys are like, who the hell are they talking about? SuperMex is speaking in tongues tonight. What is he talking about? Okay, but the majority of America don't even know that Nicholas Hoult has been the Beast, kind of.
Yeah.
It's kind of not. And I'm going to tell you why, because it's not a major role.
The X-Men
within
is not. It's not the
X-Men.
same context of like the Marvel movies that the MCU.
Right, and
is.
here's the other thing. And X-Men are not even into like the other Marvel universe in that way, right?
They
It's
will
not
be
like
soon.
well, it's not like goddamn.
Yeah.
You know, here's the thing. It's
Until
not like the
another
X-Men.
5-7 years or something.
No, it's not like the X-Men where they're battling Thanos, right? They
Right.
should have been.
No,
they
yeah.
should have been because they're in the Marvel universe.
No,
But
yeah.
my point is, I think I know what they're doing. I'm with you on the Brit thing. We'll get to that in a second because
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. But I do. I'm going to give him the benefit. I'm going to tell you why. Because Richard knows I kind of like this kid.
Yeah.
I like Nicholas Hoult.
You do.
I kind of like him. I do. I think he is legit. I think he is a well-trained and schooled actor, and he has the ability to grow and do any role. And if you watch his body so far, his body of work, it's pretty varied. He has the ability to do whatever the hell he wants. So I mean, if you're in Hollywood, you're saying that one, you know, trajectory. That's what they're looking at, and I think that's like. So I will give him the benefit of the doubt if he is that.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, but.
Well, in
Also,
terms of Robert Pattinson, yeah, the Beast character was not as popular as Eric.
Well, let's do that.
What's to
Hey,
say
let's make it
that
a thumb-
Robert
let's make it a
Pattinson isn't
thumbs
trying
up
to
or a
redeem
thumb down.
himself? That's
Now
my
let's tell you what. Let's make it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Do we go with Holt over Pattinson?
I would rather take Holt over Pattinson.
I'd take Holt over Pattinson.
Yeah, I'll take.
What's
Holt
this? Supermax cheats. He gets 2 votes.
And
I don't know.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
Oh my God!
That's like telling me to pick the
You're the one
less.
that brought up Holt.
Yeah, for you,
no.
the lesser of two evils. Though
But
I don't know.
But I
I'm still-
understand
I'm
you
still
because
turning.
the thing is that and history does serve me correctly that anytime that anybody who has been chosen for a role going into a famous role, whoever they cast it first, usually the fans hate the initial choice in the beginning,
And especially with us, with the comic book
but
community,
the
the
thing is
nerd
that it was
community
worse,
writ large.
But it was worse back then because for some, comic book nerds, they were very passionate because that's all they had back then.
Yep.
Now nerd comic book stuff, fandom is cool now. Back then, in the 80s, it wasn't. So people were like him. You'd probably speak that they were more passionate back then. Like he'll tell you when Michael Keaton, maybe not him personally, but his generation, when Michael Keaton got cast as Batman and Tim Burton, everybody hated. I mean, it was so bad. I've seen the behind the scenes stuff because the movie came out when I was born, so I had to do my research. It was so bad that the New York Times, even in the front of their paper, said why Michael Keaton is a horrible choice. Because, he didn't mention this. Yeah, it's Mr. Mom, but he was also Beetlejuice.
Yep.
So you don't think Beetlejuice...
He was pretty damn good at Beetlejuice.
No, exactly.
That was
But you don't think Beetlejuice translates into Batman, but... What made it perfect was that Tim Burton was so smart to think that, I cannot convince people to get someone as famous as Clint Eastwood to don the tights. What's cool about Michael Keaton is that when you see him, you don't think superhero. You think that this guy, the way how he looks, he would have to dress as a bat for effect. And so when people finally saw him in the suit and in the role, I was like, okay, I could buy into that. With him, same thing with Tobey Maguire. When he got cast as Spider-Man, everybody hated it. But then once you saw him in the role, in the glasses, in the tights, and with everything that Sam Raimi did, taking his Sam Raimi from Evil Dead for him to do it for at that time period, it was effective.
I still don't know
I mean, but
you know
for its
what?
time, it worked.
But generically though, so I'm gonna run back to a comment you made. Okay, so where we're at now, people are gonna have a complaint about everybody.
That's true.
That is a damn fact. I mean, look, social media and that nether universe and cyber. Okay, everybody's an expert. You have far more critics. KP, there's no Siskel and Ebert anymore, is there, KP?
No.
There's no more Siskel and Ebert. Okay, so what you have in lieu of, watch that, INLIEU, in lieu of Siskel and Ebert, what you have is a whole gazillion
critics,
guys that think they know everything about everything.
Exactly.
So, and so you qualify it, right? I'm going to make that statement.
Yep.
You have an expert in everything. Hell, we're being experts tonight, right?
Yep.
We're being
for
experts
the time being,
Okay, so we're being experts. But if I walk back to that time you said earlier, it is different than what you guys are living with. Okay, so for you, and I'm going to guess from your dad to you, it was okay to read comic books and you wouldn't get beat down. You wouldn't get your butt whooped.
It wasn't as bad, like you said, as it was back then. Yeah.
For me, if somebody saw me and they saw that I had some comic books on the way home, I got some chingazos on the way home. They're like, mira este chavala, mira, ay con los comic books, ay mijo te voy a hang. I got whooped up. If they knew I was reading comic books. Okay, you guys have it better. That's good. That's good. We live in a better world that way, right? More tolerant world. But that's a main difference between then and now, is that it's much more acceptable, much more okay for those people to express and be their thing, right? We're not picking on people because they don't want to read a book. No, exactly. scary thought, right? Yeah. Look at that dystopian future coming. We're on the corner. But my overall point is this: if you really look at it, it's a hell of a lot harder now to cast the perfect person. Yep. In any damn role. Well, I think we're never going to be totally satisfied because.
Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. I don't know if anybody really gripes about that.
Oh no, for sure. And that's what I said. Sometimes it's also by the movie they're chosen for. So that's what I'm saying. With Chris Evans, Captain America was perfect for him. Fantastic Four wasn't. With Val Kilmer, unfortunately, even though I do find some entertainment value in the Schumacher versions, mostly Forever over Robin. But with Val Kilmer, what George Clooney were given, they weren't given that much. But let's say had Val Kilmer and Clooney, had they had Nolan as their director, we might be thinking differently. So that's what I'm saying, is that with Rob Pattinson, the director now, Matt Reeves is a good director. He's done Cloverfield. Yep. He's done Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and the most recent War of the Planet of the Apes. So he's got, and Let Me In, the American remake of Let the Right One In. He's a great director, so I think he's going to do something good with it. So with me, the whole thing is that Rob Pattinson is not my first choice, but given the right director and the fact that I'm an open-minded person, I usually feel that, let the film speak for itself. And sometimes I live to be proven wrong. And there's been times where I was on that train where, like I said, those examples I said, of people who were chosen for a role and no one bought into. You see the movie now? Now everyone's like, oh crap, I can't see anybody playing the role now.
Let's do this, because I think we can kind of get consensus on this.
Yeah.
I don't know about you and you. I think I do. I think it's just like, in general, this is where we're going. Okay, they're going to pick somebody. We can cry and complain about it, whether it's Robert Pattinson or Nicholas Hoult, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I'm not going to say anything until I see it.
Exactly. Until I see it, because you really don't know until you know, okay, this is pretty good. And yes, a quality director and a quality script and a quality material can mean the difference between some guy that could have been good and some guy that could have been great. Because I'll tell you this, I don't think anybody knew that Christian Bale would totally remake the concept of being an actor in portraying a superhero.
No.
Nobody saw that.
No, for sure. But can I add one thing though? Because I know you wanted to add the Brit thing, but the other thing I want to add too.
I don't want to add the Brit thing. You did.
No.
I'm saying I went along with it.
Oh no. The other
You got to
thing,
be careful with language because I don't forget conversation.
Oh no, for sure. And the other thing that I'll add leading into this though is the fact that how many times are we going to keep retelling the Batman story? At some point, it's the same thing. Parents killed. He trains. He becomes Batman. He becomes the He becomes the Dark Knight of Gotham, stalking criminals from the shadows. We have seen it done constantly in how many movies, and now going on the 7th Batman. You can't tell me that at this point there's nothing wrong with changing it up to, because obviously, yeah, Bruce Wayne is the Batman, but don't forget, there's Dick Grayson, there's Jason Todd, and I think there's another one too. I forgot. So, you tell me you can't not only make there be a new version of Batman and let alone maybe recast him as a different looking Batman, because that is almost like the James Bond thing. With me, I was hip to Idris Elba playing the new Bond, because how many times are you going to choose the same James Bond over and over again?
Don't be racial.
But sometimes it is. Because I know
Rachel.
No, because I know a lot of people.
You know Rachel?
Rachel.
I know Rachel. You know Rachel?
Rachel who? So, I mean, and the last thing I have to is like that, and if people are dissatisfied by Idris Elba's choice, well, guess what? You have how many James Bond movies to refer to make you happy?
Exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. With Spider-Man, recently, the most successful one that was the best reviewed and won an Academy Award was the one based on Miles Morales. But when is he going to get his due on the big screen?
So I think I see where you're going with
making
this.
an inroads.
Well, no, they're making inroads, but why now?
He wants to do a Batman with me as Batman.
Well,
I like this guy. I like this guy.
No, but seriously, at
I said
the
me.
no, but at the juncture, what's wrong with casting? What's wrong with casting a Hispanic? What's wrong with casting somebody who's mixed? And because I know in the comic books, yeah, he's white, but yet at the same time, this is a different generation. This is a different time.
Well, see,
you're telling me that someone,
if we're
someone
talking
like
about the story,
you can't be Batman?
Yeah,
Well, his
if we're
son
talking
Damien
about
is
the
actually
story,
half Iranian.
Huh? Who
His
is?
son Damien. So his son. I don't know if you knew this. His son is
whose son?
Batman's son. He actually has a son now.
With Talia al Ghul, right?
With Talia al Ghul. He's the 4th Robin. So
Talia al Ghul.
Oh yeah, that reminds me.
Ra's al Ghul?
Yeah, wasn't Ra's al Ghul Middle
the
Eastern?
hell?
Yeah, Ra's al Ghul technically Middle Eastern. Yeah,
So
but
Damien-
they get Liam Neeson to do it.
All right, SuperMex Nation. So you do see I'm like out of the loop here. I don't read as much as these guys do anymore.
That's my
so
point,
that's
exactly.
his daughter and
Yeah.
Batman?
Yeah.
No. Talia al Ghul is Ra's al Ghul in the
Ra's al
movie.
Ghul's
Yeah.
daughter.
Yeah, the one Marion Cotillard in The Dark Knight Rises in the comic books is technically Liam Neeson's character's daughter.
Correct.
And so in the comics, they have a kid together, and he's saying he was half Middle Eastern, half white.
Yes.
But the
And
thing is
so
that in the comic
Batman's
books,
son is that.
Yes.
yeah, but in the movie they casted Liam Neeson, a Brit, again as Ra's al Ghul, when he's supposed to technically be Middle Eastern, and Talia al Ghul is supposed to be his Middle Eastern daughter.
There's actually nothing to say that Ra's al Ghul is Middle Eastern. He's God knows
Does
how
that
old.
sound like a Caucasian name to you?
No, it's a name that's uptaken by the leader.
Here-
of
but-
the-
but when you
here's
see
the
his
thing.
drawing in the comic books, he looks like it, though.
And it could be, but within that organization,
You don't know.
You don't. Yeah, it's a shadow, and you could be of a variety of different descents. But once you're in, you have this name, but you don't know their background.
Jason
In
Todd
theory, they
became
could be.
Ra's al Ghul.
But that's the perfect example to use with that to jump in is that okay, so if their backgrounds are ambiguous in the comics, then why not make it ambiguous when you cast it for a film?
Yeah.
What's wrong with the Hispanic?
It does not get too
What's wrong with
ambiguous.
Asian? But my whole thing is that why not though?
Like, he's getting ambiguous
No,
on me.
because think about it again. If you're dissatisfied with Idris Elba, you have over 20 Batmans to choose from. Same thing with Spider-Man. If you're dissatisfied with, let's say, they cast Miles Morales in this one, well, you got 6 other Spider-Mans to look from Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland. Same thing with Batman. If it got recast for a person of color, guess what? You have 6 other Batman films to look after from 3 different directors. So as far as why not? What can it hurt at this point?
No,
Yeah.
no,
I think where it does go, so I'll stop there because we need to move on to the next, our other topics. But here's the thing: there was, and I think I may have said it on air. So I think his Robert or Ben Bray Hernandez. He's a director, Mexican American director. and they just shot a movie called, I'm going to do it again. I haven't seen it yet, but I got it. I know where to get it now. It's called El Chicano.
Yes.
And it's about a Mexican guy who comes back. I think he's a military guy, comes back, sees his younger brother or something like that get killed out on the street, and he becomes, in essence, a Dark Knight kind of figure, like a Batman figure.
In the streets.
Right, because, I mean,
East
listen, the reality is there. I mean, I don't know about, well, maybe not as much for you. I don't know about for you, but in the, where I grew up, in the generation I grew up, and the things that I saw people get killed. I saw people get shot at. I saw, that happen.
Yeah.
I had family members that were done to, in gangs and things like that. So that's not a difficult concept to try to ascribe to a superhero role.
No, for sure.
You can get a Mexican American out there living right now that has lived all of this stuff. And then I will say, and I'm gonna jump on with you, and I know you're there with me because we've talked about this before. And this doesn't have anything to do with racial, whatsoever, because nobody on my show, nobody watching my show knows it. They know better. But there's no question in my mind that you need to have more Mexican, not just Hispanic, because I love Andy Garcia, but that dude's really light skinned and he looks nothing like me. He's, but and yeah, he's Cuban, but he's light skinned and he doesn't look as much like a dirty Mexican like me. I'm dirty Mexican, and I'm proud of it. I grew up on the damn street, so
I think the term they use now is passing.
Well, whichever one it is, but I want to see somebody looking like me in a serious role on the big screen. And I want to see, and not because I'm into quotas, because if we did quotas, then we'd have a hell of a lot more of role, because we're a massive percentage of this population.
Yeah, exactly.
Mexican America is the fastest growing minority in America, the fastest growing. We may end up being the biggest minority if we're not almost there already.
We're going to be.
And if you look at Hollywood, and if you look at the industry, it's almost devoid of top end.
No,
it's not there.
No, exactly. But the thing is that the representation percentage doesn't match the ticket buying public. The Hispanics, we are the number one buying ticket buying box office demographic in this country.
Are we?
Yeah. There was a study poll done in 2014 that said that Hispanics, I think it was Hispanics 45%, and I think Caucasians 42%, that we make up the majority of the box office, especially in the summer. Summer box office ticket buying public out there. So, and they said that the average person who is the highest ticket buying demographic, as far as whether it be gender or whatever, was Hispanic women between the ages of 18 to 35. They're the ones buying the most tickets to go see movies. Right. So, and I know like you're calling us nerds, but the thing is that if you go into these audiences of seeing movies, you'll see as much women as there is now of guys at these movies. And now with the inclusivity of now Captain Marvel and all these other Marvel characters that have allowed females in there, it has allowed for that. So that's what I'm saying.
Here's the thing.
The percentage doesn't match the ticket buying public.
I think it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's inevitable, Mr. Anderson. It is going to happen. SuperMex is just trying to push it so we move a little faster.
Yep.
Because I do think it's been a little too long in coming.
A little too long.
And that has absolutely nothing. I want Mexican America to take its full seat at the table, because if we're included in this process, the whole damn country gets stronger.
Yep.
Because we are strong, we are hardworking, we are disciplined, we don't cry and complain, we just get the job done.
Exactly.
I think we'll all agree on that. Watch that. Toma. Okay, let's move on. We take way too much time. We'll be here all night on the comics alone. All right, so let's see. New Batman. I think we've got a kind of consensus there. New Batman.
Do we?
And now Game of Thrones is finishing tomorrow. Game of Thrones finished tomorrow.
Hooray.
So 8 seasons total.
10 years.
I saw that the beginning of this season, the very first episode, was the most watched episode of anything on HBO since the beginning of HBO. It was the most watched episode this beginning of the season of any HBO. And think about it, HBO's had some
damn
hell of a
great
lineup.
shows, yes.
I mean, you remember when you were a little boy, I was watching The
Oh,
Sopranos.
no, for sure, definitely. Carnival is underrated. Deadwood is
Carnival,
underrated.
yeah, that was done too. I
Deadwood, my
watched the
dad
hell out of
loved
that.
I'm glad you
Deadwood.
said that one.
I watched the hell out of all those shows, but so this particular, and a sci-fi fantasy subgenre, right? It is the most watched of all HBO's offerings going back since the inception of what HBO was, home box office, if you don't know what HBO stands for. So that's finishing tomorrow. And no, excuse me, not tomorrow, Sunday. It's finishing Sunday. And unfortunately, I'm kind of a nerd, geek / goon and all the above on it, because I've read all the books. Here's my statement on the dissatisfaction with where it's gone so far. We can complain and cry about everything, right? We agree on that.
Yeah.
There's like critics for everything. But I will say this, that a general assertion by a lot of fans is that Benioff and Weiss, the guys that are
Right.
heading this thing,
Showrunners, yeah.
and they've put it out over 7 seasons. It's generally been good, but people are dissatisfied because this season. Now, here's the trick. Here's the trick for those of you guys that don't know. There is no book material for this season.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, there's no book material because George R.R. Martin hasn't written the final book on Game of Thrones. So what they're doing, correct. What they're doing is they're creating their own
Scenario.
technical finished universe based not on George R.R. Martin's material,
Yep.
but based on what they wanted it to be to look good for an audience.
For the fans.
Based on the series.
And I will say this, and I'm pretty hard, and Richard will tell you, I'm very, very hard-headed about this because I do like the series and I do like everything. It has like disappointed me in some ways, where even I can see some things that are clearly that's not good, and I'm a goon about it. But they've not set this up well. However, being optimistic, I'm SuperMex. If I wasn't optimistic, I would not be alive today. I had to survive that way. But I'm looking at Sunday, and I'm ready, an hour and 20 minutes, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and hope that they get it right. Because all the crying and complaining, you guys in my SuperMex universe know how I am about that. I don't like hearing a lot of crying and complaining. Way too many people crying and complaining about everything. The Godfather, first one. And he slaps the hell out of him. Remember?
Yeah.
The nephew, he cries like a little.
Absolutely.
He's
Oh,
like
yeah.
crying, no, Godfather, I didn't get to do this. And he slaps the hell out of
Oh,
him.
yeah.
He makes fun of him. Marlon Brando's a beast, man. That's a real man. So anyway, I don't like a lot of crying and complaining, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Sunday's the wrap, and I'm optimistic. If it isn't, I'll take them to task because even on my political shows and social shows that we do, you guys all know I'm fair.
Yeah.
I am fair.
Absolutely.
So you've been watching. Have you seen all of them up to this point?
I've seen a good portion of them, yes.
What are you expecting? Who gets the kill? Who survives? That's the big question. Who's the last one standing? Who gets to sit on the Iron Throne?
I don't care
is
to
it?
sit on the Iron Throne. I just want Arya to kill Danny.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, Arya kills Danny.
Well, they've been setting it up like that.
I want Jon to die.
Oh, damn.
But then technically Jon Snow already did die before?
Yes, but I want Baratheon back
But
on the
without
throne.
coming back.
I want...
Because the Red Priestess isn't here anymore. She can't resurrect
Yeah,
him.
I want what most people don't because I'm kind of an ass that way, but I want the
Who is
Baratheons
this
back on the
foul-mouthed
throne.
kid? Where'd you learn that stuff?
But I think
The army.
I think the creators
The
and the
army.
showrunners are taking up after you because, like you said, I don't think it makes you an a-hole. It just means that you like taking risks. And to me, I think some of the best stories, whether if it's in the realm of comic books, sci-fi, fantasy, stuff like that, have been built into success based on the risks that they took.
Yes, but a lot of people are complaining now because it's like, oh, we've grown so attached to these characters and we have this whole thing. It's like, Danny, I really want
It's
Danny to
still
take the
fantasy,
throne and I want
man.
Jon to take the throne. My thing is like, get rid of them all. Why not?
Here's what I think.
That's what they made
Here's-
his bones
you know,
on.
like I said, this is crazy because where we're at right now, this is all the fault of season 1.
Yep, Ned Stark.
Because they chopped off Ned Stark's head and they created an expectation for anything goes, anything happens.
Yep.
And so when you get something that seems some obvious normalcy, fans are going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Because if you can chop off Ned Stark's season, the very, head and season, if you can chop off Ned Stark's head, the clear protagonist, the good guy, the nice guy, and they lop off his damn head and they shatter his family to the 4 winds, right? Not just Westeros, but Essos too and everywhere else. Then you've created an expectation, and I think Game of Thrones fans have become extremely discriminated. I'm not saying that's bad, but extremely discriminated when it comes to subplots, twists, and expectation.
Absolutely.
So now, I'm going to say it. I will say it. I don't think anybody's going to be happy with whatever the hell the damn ending is going to be.
No, someone's
I
going
don't.
to be displeased.
Somebody's going to cry and complain about, well, you know how I am about
But
it.
at some point,
Cry and
should
complain.
you already expect that? Like, with fans especially.
Well, that's what I'm
nowadays.
saying. We're there.
Yeah, but with movies, TV shows, like I said, based on comic books, sci-fi, fantasy, it's not necessarily always going to be based on the source material verbatim. And the funny thing is that, and when you do that, people complain that, it's based too much on the comic book. It looks too similar. It's too whatever. Because I was watching Watchmen a long time ago, and I mean, just recently, and I remember like people were pissed off. I mean, I think Zack Snyder's Watchmen is a masterpiece, but the rub that people have with Watchmen is that they're like, well, it's too reminiscent of the comics. And I'm like, you're never gonna satisfy
gonna
people.
please you.
If you take a risk and you at least
And that's
stay
probably
true.
from someone that never actually read the comics.
No, exactly.
They wanted to sound like some expert.
didn't want
that
to
didn't
be
sound
something,
like the
yeah.
comics.
If you stay true to the comics, and people are like, oh, well, you're a little too true to the comics, then you take a risk. Oh, man, well, you're deviating from the comics. So you can now, it's never a win-win in this regard. And to the fact that I've been hearing in the news that supposedly there's been, 33,000 signatures of fans of the show.
Say up to 50,000
Oh,
now.
50,000 now. Okay, 50,000
To,
people
to reshoot the season.
to reshoot the whole season. Do you know how many millions of dollars that's going to cost? Do you know how much of whatever?
Untold.
Don't get me wrong. I appreciate the fans' input, but yet at the same time, to always think that you're always going to satisfy them, let alone think that you're going to stifle your creativity just to satisfy.
Does anybody really think
fanboys?
they're going to reshoot the whole damn thing?
Not going to happen.
That ain't gonna happen. That's done. It's a nice want and a wish, but I mean, come on, that ain't gonna happen because they're gonna turn around. They're gonna roll out 3 or 4 prequels anyway.
But some people have saved shows. Like I remember Jericho was a pretty popular show on CBS, and then a lot of people wrote stuff like that, and even protested in the streets in front of CBS and brought that show back. I forgot which one, not X-Files, but there's been other shows that have been brought back through the popularity of fans.
This is a totally different critter, though. I think it's too much.
Family Guy was even brought back.
It's too much. It's too much money, for one.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of money that they spend
it's a movie budget.
Is astronomical.
It's more than movie budgets.
Because it's an entire universe. Yeah, it's an entire
it's
universe
overseas,
unto itself.
Overseas.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's just, I'll say it. I'll go on record if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But there's no way this thing gets redone.
No,
it's just not.
absolutely not.
Because you can immediately turn around, like, while they're crying, you notice the pattern here. CC, not CCR, though. Notice a pattern here. A lot of crying and complaining. But as soon as it's done, they can cry and complain, and they're going to, within one year, they'll roll out a new season. It'll be The Hedge Knight. There'll be something else. It'll be a prequel, and then people will latch onto that.
Yep.
Because in today's America, and we do this on the political show, we can't keep attention.
No.
Because the average attention span's so damn short anyway for the average American.
Less
You
than
give
8
them
seconds.
something, you give them the next shiny object, and you know what they're going to do? Oh, I'm good.
Nice.
Let's move on. I really didn't like that season, but I'm okay now.
Oh, shiny.
Yeah.
And they'll watch anyway. And I do understand, and I do know with clarity that the Hollywood film industry, politicians today, leadership today, they understand what mass is in terms of our population. They know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Give them the shiny object. Oh, watch. Hey, look, we're going to start a war over here. Take your mind off this other stuff that's going on.
Right.
That's political. Because like where are we at right now, guys? We end up in a damn war.
It's just honesty.
It is. It is.
Can't accept
All
the
right,
truth.
let's move on. So the Game of Thrones, I'm kind of I'm optimistic. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. See what happens this Sunday. I'm going to hope for the best. We'll see what happens. I doubt we'll get the worst, but something in between. I will say this in general about Game of Thrones, and Richard kind of knows this. It is the first show, the first television, and I'll even say movie, big screen or small screen, that has absolutely gotten dragons right in terms of look and tone of it.
Oh, definitely go down as one of the greatest TV shows of all time.
It's not
It definitely
even.
will.
Yeah, it's not even close on that front. And I think because of CGI and the things that they can do now, you're going to get more of it.
Yeah.
The only one, and I'm going to be a little nerdy here, but the only one that was legitimate was old school Dragon Slayer. The Ray Harryhausen stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
Dragon Slayer.
No, that was pretty
one.
cool back in the day.
With
That was
McNichol.
cool.
With McNichol. So up until that point, there really hadn't, because it's so hard to do it. You couldn't conceptually, you couldn't do it.
He didn't have CGI back in the day.
Yeah, they didn't. And so, I mean, Lord of the Rings, or excuse me, the Hobbit trilogy got
Yeah.
it right with Smaug. But, he'll tell you this too, like, I'm still waiting, and I've said this on air. If in Tolkien's world, I got to go watch that one, by the way, that's out. If you guys get a chance, go watch
Nicholas Hoult
Tolkien.
is
That's my
Tolkien.
dog. That's my dog. All right, Tolkien's my dog. He's the reason why I survived my childhood after my pops died, because he took me to another world. That's not an exaggeration. That is a fact, okay? But if they go deeper into the universe of Tolkien and they get into the First Age, you want to talk about dragons? The Game of Thrones will be nothing but a pimple on the butt. It will be nothing compared to what you can do with Tolkien's compendium of creatures and monsters and force.
Well, without Tolkien,
Absolutely nothing like
you
it.
don't got George R. R. Martin without Tolkien. You just don't.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
But my point is that there's absolutely nothing like it. And if they do, and I'm optimistic, and if they just did the Silmarillion, and if you don't know the Silmarillion, it's the book before all the others, written afterward, but it's like the prequel. It's not a story; it's a compendium of stories of the First Age, and they've got 10 movies out of the Silmarillion if they wanted to. Easily. It would blow the doors off everything out there right now, and I do think that's where they're going, by the way. They've done 6 Tolkien movies, technically, including one of the most prolific hauls of Academy Awards in the history of any movie, Return of the King, and record breaking. So anyway, I digress, but I have to, because Tolkien is one of the greatest masters of literature in the history of the Western world and literature. whether you know it or not. But he single-handedly like kind of created the sci-fi fantasy genre that we're all talking about tonight, by the way.
Oh no, for sure, yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so we got to finish up with Avengers Endgame wrapped, and over $2.5 billion, massive. I think at this point they can kind of go wherever the hell they want, right? They can do whatever they want. It leaves the door open to do a variety of things. Each of the individual characters that have survived can individually go off and do loads of movies. Yeah. So I'm gonna throw one out there for you because he knows this one. It's like a pet peeve, and I'm gonna get back to our earlier conversation.
There we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Are we doing that? We're doing that? Okay. But here we go. Here we go. Okay, so Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. Notice the tone change. Notice that. I'm setting you guys up. Robert Downey Jr. is the Iron Man. He croaks. He dies. He does the hero thing. Moves on. I'm going to give you somebody that should have been Iron Man. Because if you know Tony Stark, and if you actually know the comics, and you know the Marvel Universe before all this blow up of movies and all the other, if you know the real Marvel Universe and you know the real Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr.'s smart-ass cool guy thing is good, and I do like Robert Downey Jr. as an actor, but he's not Tony Stark. He is now because he's recreated, whatever. The real Tony Stark that would have been tailor-made for this guy, would have been tailor-made, the whole role, the whole concept, everything about it, was George Clooney.
Yeah.
Should never have been the Batman, and I'm going to tell you why. Because Tony Stark is the cool, playboy, troubled guy. He is like literally the comic book version of what George Clooney has been almost his entire life.
The smart-ass thing wasn't around until like
there was no
mid-2000s.
Was
plus,
not there.
It wasn't even.
It was a total shit because they wanted Robert Downey Jr. in that world, in that role as a good actor,
and
he is.
The comics have now retrofitted to fit.
And that's a crime,
Jr.
and that's a crime to me to do that. I mean, that's an art imitating life, life imitating art. That shouldn't have been imitated at all and restructured. But so for those of you guys out there that do know, if you're my age maybe or somewhere in that window, if you do know the true Marvel Universe and what Tony Stark was as Iron Man, you're going to sit there like, holy smokes, epiphany. Yeah, George Clooney. Not Batman. Definitely not Batman. We're like, Batman thumbs down, right, on Robert or George Clooney? Yeah. But George Clooney should have been Iron Man.
Well, the thing is that
should have.
I remember growing up because I mean, it doesn't exist. It's debunked now. But Wizard magazine, that used to be the go-to magazine for everything comic books. Wizard back in the day, and I remember in the late '90s, early 2000s, once X-Men became a big property, and then Spider-Man did. There was big talks about even an Avengers movie, even in the early 2000s. And I remember vividly reading articles saying that if we were to cast Tony Stark, who would it be? I remember reading countless articles, especially in Wizard magazine, where they were really voting for George Clooney. And when I heard George Clooney, and if they would have made it sometime in circa 2002, 2004, whatever, that would have been a perfect casting choice. And for me personally, I really would have thought that he really would have made that work.
George Clooney,
I agree with
George
you.
Clooney wouldn't have even had to have acted.
No, he wouldn't. He
just would have been
Tony Stark.
Yeah.
He was Tony Stark.
Well, that's the argument most people will make for Robert Downey Jr. too, by the way. That he's just doing his thing. He's not actually acting.
Well, no, okay, true. But that's not Tony Stark. And that was my original point. That is not Tony Stark. So in terms of, let's do this because we're wrapping up time here. So in terms of Endgame, I mean, are we generally satisfied?
Yes, absolutely. I'm satisfied, yes.
I think and I'm pretty discriminating too because I've grown up with a lifetime of Marvel heroes. I'm satisfied, with what the finish was in the end. I'll throw a little sidebar. Let's do favorite heroes. Let's do that. Who's your favorite hero?
Captain America and Spider-Man.
Just one.
Just one.
Don't give me a political answer.
Okay, when I was younger, it was Spider-Man.
Trying to be a politician?
No, it's really Captain America. Well, his name is Steve Rogers. My name is Steve, and I kind of relate to Steven Rogers more so than other characters, so I would have to say Captain America.
So Captain America just maybe a little your color?
Well, I need more vitamin D. I need a little more melon.
Captain America with the better tan.
Yeah.
All right, yours?
In general?
Don't do political. Give me one.
It's not Marvel.
Oh, it's DC.
Okay, well that's fair.
Okay, yeah, DC then.
Oh, then I'm Green Lantern.
Green Lantern?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. We talk about this because it's the will.
It's willpower.
It's willpower.
You got
the ring.
A weapon is if it's based solely on willpower. Give me that.
No, for sure.
That's what I want.
I feel like that. So I do feel like that too. Like if you could be a superhero based on the quality and power of your mind or willpower.
Yep.
then I feel like you give me that ring and I'll beat the hell out of everybody. I mean, in the multiverse.
Yep.
If it's about discipline, patience, willpower, intellectual capacity, not there.
Well, that's
But
why.
I've got
But that's
mine.
why, like Captain America was that they gave him the serum, and he had to be a good person in order to be to embody the
withdraw,
perfect.
It's believable.
The super
Hey, it's
soldier.
believable.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
when you think about this.
When they
like,
gave it to the Red Skull, he turned into a monstrosity.
Yeah.
But with Captain America, he became a good guy. Yeah.
if you think about this, watch this. If you think about this, you're gonna laugh about this. Shoot me up with that syrup. I want some. Give me some, right? Because then they're like, I want to go whoop that ass too.
And then the Captain America was worthy. He got the hammer.
Oh yeah,
and-
okay.
and-
All right,
he's,
so
he's
here we
worthy
go.
in everything.
See how that works?
Yeah.
I just threw the hammer and it came right back to me right now. I'm gonna tell you.
Well, to add to what he was saying, like he said, okay, that's where he would like to see the universe go. Okay, if they ever did an alternate universe of Tony Stark, he would like to see a George Clooney version of it. Or would you like to see the Marvel Cinematic Universe go from here?
Well, hold on, you're hijacking my time. I got to answer my question.
Oh, your question.
I gotta
Okay,
answer the question.
I thought you did.
No,
My
I
bad.
didn't. Well,
No,
what was it?
I know what he's setting up for.
Oh, was signing up for?
My hero.
Oh, you're
Who would I be?
You.
See, I didn't answer the question. But I kind of gave you a shade there and gave you an ability to answer the question.
Oh, let me think.
If I threw my hammer,
Oh, Thor.
all right, I'm gonna tell you why. All right, so growing up, I wanted to be Thor.
Yep.
I wanted to be Thor because I was really into mythology. That's how actually, comics kind of became my wheelhouse.
Tolkien, like
But,
you said, yeah.
Yeah.
All of it. Okay, so the entire mythological universe was a lot of reading. I grew up on Bullfinch's mythology. For you young people out there, Bullfinch's original mythology, not all these others. The original Bullfinch's mythology is still the best in terms of the written literature.
Right.
Being a little egghead on the intellectual end, but Bullfinch's mythology is where you should go for a comprehensive, really good written work on Greek mythology. And then I was really hard and heavy on Asgardian mythology, Egyptian, Chinese. So mythology in general is my wheelhouse. But Thor was my guy, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because
That's cool.
I was about 4 foot nothing, 100 pounds of nothing, and I'm gonna say it. And this has nothing to do with racial, but this is some serious socio-intellectual for those of you guys out there as we wrap up the show tonight. I saw the 6'9", good-looking, blonde, blue-eyed guy, and he got all the women and whooped all the butt. And I'm sitting to myself like, I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you why. Because there was no guy that looked like me
Yep.
that was that guy, which kind of goes back to our conversation, correct?
Yeah.
That is what is. So I have absolutely no compunction, and I equivocate not at all about saying that. It's in a way like I love Captain America too. Does it make me any less because I'm not as light-skinned as he is, or I'm not Caucasian, more on the light skin? I'm Caucasian, a little darker. I do think that's shifting and changing. So I grew up wanting to be Thor. 6 foot something, 300 pounds of muscle and mass, blue-eyed, blonde-haired. I wanted to be that guy.
Yeah.
And so all of you guys out there in Mexican America, you know what I'm talking about. You absolutely. Maybe you guys for your generation might not be the same, might be a little bit different because you're living in a different, and I'll say better world, where you don't have to think that way. Maybe there's a SuperMex out there for you guys to look up to and say, hey, listen, I can be like him, but I want to be like that guy too.
Yeah.
That guy kind of looks like me. He's lived my life. He's shared my past experiences. He's all American anyway. And maybe I want to be like that guy too. So I like telling people who my favorite hero was, and they freak out like, Thor?
Yeah.
Huh? Yes, it was Thor for me.
I know that because I had that old
and then,
shirt.
Yeah, and then the mythology of it. But I'll give this last little piece before we finish up here. I do like what they did, and I thought it was funny when he said it. He's got Mjolnir, which is the hammer, Mjolnir. Yes, I do know that. Thor's hammer, the original one, the old one. And then he gets the new hammer that has the edge, and it's not just the blunt, right? And that fight when they're duking it out, and Captain America, because he is worthy. You can pick up Thor's hammer if you are worthy. It's not about whether you can bench press this much or how much you can curl. Has nothing to do with that. You can be the scrawniest, littlest guy on the planet, but if you are worthy, and that goes here and here, if you are worthy, you can lift Thor's hammer.
Yep.
And then you are imbued and have the power of Thor, the Thor concept. So I do like that when he said, oh, you take the little one.
I was like, no. You give me I'll take the.
You take the little one, and he takes the big axe, Stormbreaker, whatever the hell. But I had a really good time with that. So that's more than anything else. I will say this, the Hemsworth guy. I don't know if they could have cast anybody better as Thor than him.
Honestly.
He's funny as hell. They got the comic down right.
Yes.
They got the comedy aspect of it.
Yep.
And
He did it right, yeah.
he's a really big, good-looking, blonde-haired guy that kind of works.
Then you're tough.
Totally.
I buy it. Yeah.
It kind of works. So, okay, so we're done for the night, and I know we've gone a few minutes over here, but I want to tell you guys I had a good time tonight. So what a lot of you guys don't know out there, yes, I can sit here and talk about foreign policy. I can sit here and talk about a possible war in Iran that I'm not in favor of for obvious reasons, for stupidity's sake. I can talk about a variety of issues, a variety of topics, and a whole bunch of things that matter currently on a socio-intellectual level, and definitely on a cultural level, because this is still SuperMex Nation. But more than anything else, and I think I've said this to you guys in my nation a bunch of times, the best way to be knowledgeable, concise, smart, intellectual, whatever you want to throw out a good adjective, right? The best way to be that, to be more than what you are and what you started as, go live your damn life. Do good things. Get out and experience. Deal with other people. Don't hide up in a hole and say, oh, I'm this and they're all that. No. You can answer the most pressing issues of the day simply by going out and living, experiencing, exposing, going to talk to other people, dealing with other people, being with other people. It's so critical. So I'm exaggerating, but yeah, I'm a comic guy too. I'm a Game of Thrones guy. I'm a nerd, a geek, a goon, all the above, and I'll still whoop you up a little bit when it's all done. All right? Got to have hand skills. A little bit of hand skills. All right, gentlemen, thank you for being here. SuperMex Nation is out, and we go like this. I'll give you a hand.